Hello everyone. Today's book is the latest from a fantastic author, one whose books I have reviewed on this channel before, and I think this is one of his best. And again, this is one of those books that's definitely going to be talked about for top horror books of the year. And this one's a banger, and I can't wait to tell you about it. But as always, I want to remind you that I have books for sale. And if you want to read any of the books you see on your screen, there is a link in the description where you can do that. They're only $1 each, so check them out. All right, let's get started. All right, so McLeod Chapman has a new book. And in case you haven't heard about it, that book is called What Kind of Mother? As I said, I have reviewed other books of his on this channel before. I'm always looking forward to a new one by him. And after Ghost Eaters, his book from last year, I didn't know if he could even top himself. That one was so fantastic. And yet he did. This, if you press me, this one would probably be my favorite book by him. He just keeps getting better and better. And What Kind of Mother is a Southern Gothic style written story about a missing young boy, about the power of love and belief, and about how sometimes the power of love and belief can turn situations absolutely horrifying. Because this book is creepy. This book will give you a feeling of dread as you're reading. It is, that feeling is very visceral when you're reading this book. And there's a woman, her name is Madeline. She reads palms and does tarot card reading for like 20 bucks each. She has a teenage daughter, Kendra. Kendra is kind of separating from her mother because her estranged father finally comes back into the picture all these years later, and Kendra decides she wants to spend some time and get to know who her father is, even though he apparently up to that point was not a very good person. This, of course, gives Madeline some pause. She doesn't really like it, but she doesn't believe it's right to hold back her daughter from making her own decisions. And so Kendra's spending time between her father and her mother. And so Madeline is in kind of this place where she feels she's losing her grip on her daughter. But then there's Henry. Henry is a man who, 5 years earlier, he and his wife had a baby after a series of miscarriages. And the baby's name is Skylar. One day, Skylar, according to the story, just went missing. They woke up one day and he just wasn't in his crib. There seemed to be no forced entry, no signs of any kind of home invasion or intrusion. They just went missing. This set the rumor mill flying about this small little town because some people believe he or his wife did something to the baby and tried to cover it up with this story. You know how small towns and the rumors are. Especially after his wife killed herself after this event, supposedly. And so this gave people even more gossip to talk about. But Henry has never given up that his son is alive, that his son is still out there, that there's still a chance that they can find his son. He plasters posters of his son all over town, anywhere he can. He's got stacks and stacks and stacks of them. And his belief is that not only is his son still out there somewhere, but he is absolutely alive. He and Madeline, when they were in high school, they had a little affair for about 3 months. You know, nothing too serious. And now they're seeing each other again, and it's 5 years since his son has been abducted, and he decides to kind of humor her and get a palm reading, even though he doesn't really believe in that. She doesn't really believe in it. She's just doing it for money. So he does this palm reading, but something happens. There's a connection. There's a spark. She sees something as soon as she touches his hand that she can't explain. And this begins her obsession with Skylar as well as with Henry, because she starts to believe Henry's story that Skylar might still be out there. He might still be alive. And she starts seeing visions, horrifying visions of being underwater, and there's crabs and there's jellyfish and there's other aquatic life forms. And what all this has to do with anything, we don't know. And she really has no idea how to interpret these visions she seems to be having. And one day they're going to find Skylar. And that's all I'm going to say. Because this book will take you to places you were not expecting from a book about a missing kid. It's really, really creepy. It's really, really dreadful. It really, really builds the tension. I said this in my written review, and I want to repeat it here. If you can read this book without feeling creeped out and without feeling this overall dread creeping into your soul and just trying to wrap itself around you, then you just might be dead inside. Because in true Southern Gothic style, it's not what the author writes directly. It's the way he writes these things that leaves room for your interpretation. And you know that something is coming. You know something horrific is going to come out of some of these situations. But you just don't know what, and you don't know when. And then when they come, it just slaps you across the face, punches you in the gut, and leaves you in an emotional gutter. Because that's how effective the story is told. And what takes place in the second half of this book is just, at times, it's actually very sweet at times. It's very heart-wrenching, but it's also brutally horrific and terrifying at the same time. And it really will focus on like I said earlier, the power of belief and how it can change situations, how it can change people, not always for the better. And this is an excellent example of how to write a book without a lot of blood, without a lot of gore, but still manage to scare you in such an instinctual way, is what I'm trying to say. Like, it just shakes you to your very core. It just creeps up on you, and then it grabs you, and then it won't let go, and then it starts shaking you, and by the end of the book you just feel beat up in a good way, because it was that well written and that effective. Yes, I absolutely love this book. I think it will be one of my favorite horror books of the year, and that list keeps getting bigger, I know, but what a stellar year has been for horror. And yeah, you just have to read this book. There's so many things I want to tell you about in this book, but I don't want to because of spoilers. I do not want to spoil anything for you. The less you know, the better. But you are going to be blown away by some of the things you'll be reading in this novel. And I will leave a link down below to Amazon where you can purchase your copy, as always. And thank you for taking some of your time and spending it here with me. And until we meet again, keep reading spooky, my friends.